Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. We are on lesson number 9, trade. After having seen what is visible and invisible trade, we come to different types of trade. Now types of trade can be of two types, that is on the basis of quantity of goods and on the basis of extent of the region. On the basis of quantity of goods, it can be wholesale trade and retail trade, and on the basis of extent of the region, it is domestic and international trade. Domestic trade is also called as internal trade and international trade is also called as external trade. Let us see each of them in detail. According to the quantity of goods, we know there are two types of trades, wholesale and retail. So now what is wholesale trade? When the trader buys commodity on large scale directly through the producer, it is known as wholesale trade. Here the word large scale is very important. The one who is trading buys the commodity on large scale directly from the producer, from the manufacturer, and he is also selling it on large scale to the retailer. That means here buying is not in hundreds and few hundreds, but it might be in few thousands and few lakhs, or maybe in quintals and tons. So such large scale, such bulk buying is called as wholesale trading. A wholesale trader buys goods on large scale from industrialist, the farmer, etc. For example, the orchard owner of mango or oranges sells the entire production to the wholesale trader. So wholesaler wholesale trading example is given here. The wholesale trader might buy the entire yearly product from the orchard owner, maybe the whole production of mango that year from the whole of the orchard, or maybe that of the oranges. I hope wholesale trade is clear. So bulk buying directly from the producer is known as wholesale trading. Then what is retail trading? When the trader buys the goods from the wholesale trader and sells it directly to the consumer, it is known as retail trading. Here the quantity of goods sold is lesser in this case. This is not in bulk buying or bulk selling, but it is in lesser quantity. Here the wholesaler is selling it to the retailer and retailer is selling it to the consumer, directly the one who is going to use that product. So the product goes into the hands of the consumer in this type of trade. Here the scale, the quantity of the goods sold is less. For example, when we buy pen from the shopkeeper or when we buy vegetable from the vegetable vendor, such a type of a trade is retail trade. So here the wholesaler, when the trader is buying the goods from the wholesaler and he is selling it directly to the consumer. So buying from the wholesaler and selling to the consumer, such a type of small scale trade is called as retail trading. Now, after having seen what is wholesale and retail trade, the next type of trade is on the extent of the region. On the extent of the region, you can divide into various levels. We have seen two categories, domestic and international trade. Now within domestic trade, it can also be local, regional, national. Okay, and the other one was international trade. So what is domestic trade? Trade that takes place between different regions within the same country, that is within the boundary of the country. When the trade is taking place, such a trade is called as domestic or internal trade. Here the size of the country, diversity, distribution and availability of natural resources affect the internal trade within the country. And our country is India, is blessed with diversity, with different natural resources. So there will be a large scale internal trade within our nation. So internal trade in India is taking place on large scale, as our country is having diversity, that is variety in everything, variety in all the products, and there are different natural resources. So our country will be having large scale internal trade. The size of the population, transport and communication services, living standard of the people, marketing system leads to large scale internal trade. And of course we know India is the second populated nation in the world. So large scale people are there, and more the population, more is the market availability. So internal trade will be on large scale in a country because the population is very large. Also The transport and communication system is very well developed in our country. Standard of living of the people is improving. It is quite high in some region. In some region it might be low, but on an average we can say the standard of living of India is better. And also the marketing system. For one product we can see the advertisement. Let us say the example of toothpaste. There are variety of toothpaste available in the market, and we can see they are marketed through advertisement on the television, on radios, in news channels, in the newspaper, etc. So all this leads to large scale internal trade. In India, factors like diversity in geographical condition. So there is diversity in geographical condition. We have very high temperature in parts of Rajasthan. We have snow-clad region in some part. We have the heaviest rainfall in the other part. Okay, so we have different diversity in our geographical condition. Also, the population here is very high. So we have a very good domestic trade in our country. Internal trade in India is very well developed. A country's development is dependent on the extent of domestic trade, and India is fortunate enough to have very good internal domestic trade. There is good economic, if there is good economic growth, then trade will be more. Thus, there is a positive relation between economic growth and trade. That means positive relation means there is a direct relation. If the internal trade is more, economic development of the country will be more. Or if the economic development of the country is more, internal trade will be also more. I hope this is clear. Now second type is international trade. After having seen what is domestic trade, we come to what is international trade. Now international trade means exchange of goods and services of one country with the other country. In internal trade we have seen exchange of goods and commodities within the country, within the boundary of the country. Here more than two countries are involved. So when one country buys and other country sells, such a trade is called as international trade. Some countries produce specific products in excess. For example, crude oil in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and wheat production in USA and Canada, etc. As these countries produce certain things in excess, they will be exchanging, they will be selling these things. These products are sent to countries having demand for these goods. This leads to the beginning of international trade. India, for example, produces rice on large scale, tea on large scale. So India will be exporting, India will be giving these things which it has in excess to other countries. So this is the beginning of international trade. When international trade takes place between two countries, it is bilateral trade. One country is buying, other country is selling. Only two countries involved. Such a trade is bilateral. But when one country is selling the good to many countries, such a trade is called as multilateral trade. For example, Saudi Arabia sells crude oil to India, to Sri Lanka, to Japan, to Bangladesh, to USA. So can you see one country is selling its product which is in excess to many countries. Such a trade is multilateral. So bilateral means one country is buying, one country is selling the thing. But when more than two countries are involved, such a trade is multilateral. We come to the last part. What is export and import? Export and import are the basic processes of international trade. When a country buys those goods and services which are scarce in their own country. I have already told you the meaning of scarce. Scarce means in less quantity. So when one country faces deficit of this product, when one country doesn't have that product in excess, it will be buying that product. It will be importing that product from the other country. But when a country has something in excess, when a country has something in large quantity, it will be selling that thing to the country which demands it. For example, India has rice, India has tea, India has precious stones and spices in large quantity. So it will be selling these things which are in excess to the countries who demand such thing. So when India sells a thing, it is called as export of a country. And when India requires certain thing, for example crude oil, which we do not have in large quantity, which is scarce in a country, when we buy such a thing, we say that we have imported a thing. So when a product comes in a country, it is import, and when product goes out of the country, it is export. I hope this much is clear. Thank you, students. Hello friends. We continue with the chapter Trade, page number 70. Use your brain power. Students, this part is omitted. In the new syllabus, this part is reduced. This part is not there. In the earlier part of this lesson, we have seen what is import and what is export. When a country buys something from other country, we say the country has imported the things. For example, India buying mineral oil, crude oil, petroleum products from Middle East countries, or let us say Saudi Arabia. So India has imported oil from Saudi Arabia. Then what is export? When a country sells something to the other country, it is said to be export. For example, India has sold coconut, rice and tea to say Japan. So we say that India has exported rice, wheat, tea, etc. Have you understood what is import and export? Now we move ahead with the lesson, balance of trade. Very important part. Please listen carefully. Difference between the import and export values of a country in a specific period is called balance of trade. I repeat, this is the definition of balance of trade. Difference between the import and export values of the country. Dear students, here the word value is very important. We are not talking about the quantity of import and export, but we are talking about the amount of import and export. So the difference between this import and export amount or import and export value made by the country in a specific period is called as the balance of trade. So after understanding what is the meaning of balance of trade, we will see the different types of balance of trade. First one, unfavorable balance of trade. Unfavorable balance of trade. Students, can you see a seesaw being shown there? A seesaw is being shown. Import and export. You all must have played the seesaw, right? The heavier thing always goes down and the lighter thing goes up. Am I right? When you play seesaw, the one who is heavier will be down and one who is lighter will be up. Here, in unfavorable balance of trade, as the name suggests, balance of trade is unfavorable. In unfavorable balance of trade, import of the country is more. That means you have to buy more from the other country, and export is less. Can you see here? Import is more and export is less. So the import side is down, whereas the export side is up. So this is an unfavorable balance of trade. You are importing more, that means your country is spending more amount for buying that thing. On the other hand, when your export is less, you earn less from your export. So the money coming in your country is less, but the money going out of your country is more. Am I right? When you import something, you are paying the money from your treasury. When you are exporting something, your treasury is filled with the money. But here, when you are importing more treasure will be empty, and when you are exporting less, your treasure will go on becoming lesser and emptier. So this is called as unfavorable balance of trade. Generally, poor countries are seen to be having unfavorable balance of trade. Country which does not have technology or modern equipment generally import such thing and export minor agriculture products. So they will be having unfavorable balance of trade. Any country which wants to progress, which wants to develop, will never like to have such a situation. Am I right? Unfavorable balance of trade you have understood. Let us move ahead to favorable balance of trade. This is a very nice win-win situation which any country will like to have. Here your import is less, so can you see the seesaw has gone up, that side is up, and your export side is down. That means you are importing less thing but you are exporting more of your country's product. So when you import less amount goes out of your country, and when you export more amount comes in your country. Amount coming in the country is always good. That is why this sort of trade is called as favorable balance of trade. Any country will like to have such a type of a trade. Mostly the advanced countries, the developed countries will be having favorable balance of trade. Let us move ahead. Next type of trade. Balanced trade. We have seen unfavorable balance of trade, favorable balance of trade, and balanced balance of trade. I repeat, this is called as balanced balance of trade. Can you see the seesaw is perfectly horizontal? Same amount of import and same amount of export is there. Neither side is going up nor down. It is exactly horizontal. The amount of import is equal to the amount of export. Money that comes in the country because of export is utilized for selling, is utilized for buying the import things. I repeat what I said. Money that comes in the country from exporting the local products, from exporting your indigenous products, the same amount, the same money you are utilizing to buy your necessities. That is, you are utilizing to buy import things. So you are not spending anything from your country's treasure. This is known as balanced trade. Balance of trade. Clear everyone? I repeat once again, after seeing these different types of balance of trade, that is, first one unfavorable, second one favorable, and the third one balanced. Let me remind you that we are here talking about the amount and not the quantity. I repeat, we are talking about the value. In the definition itself we have seen, we are talking about the import-export value of the country. Okay, we are talking about the value here and not the quantity. Here I cannot say I have just imported one aeroplane and I have exported 5 ships full of rice. Mind you, your 5 ships full of rice will be, the amount of it, the value of it will be much less than the amount or the value of an aeroplane. So here we are not talking about the number, the quantity, but we are talking about the value. Am I right, students? Is that very clear? So even if you have imported one aeroplane and you have exported 5 ships of rice, you will not be having a favorable balance trade, but it will be unfavorable. Clear? Let us move ahead. International trade organizations. International trade organization. Now when you are trading at the international level, the processes, the policies, the documentations that are required is very complex. It is not easy. I repeat, when you're trading within the nation, when you're trading regionally, the trade is very simple, very easy. But when you want to venture into international market, there will be a lot of procedures, lot of documentation. It is a complex process. I am reading that sentence from the textbook now. Carrying out trade at an international level is a complex process than domestic trade. Agreed, students? Trade takes place between 2 or more nations, and you must be knowing by now, trade between 2 or more nations is called as an international trade. Trade between 2 nations is known as unilateral trade. Trade between many countries is known as bilateral trade or multilateral trade. Factors like economy of the country, government policies, markets, laws, judiciary, judicial system, currency, languages, etc. influences the trade. Let us see each of these factors in detail. What are the factors that we are talking about? First one, factors like the economy of the country. Students, in the previous chapter we have seen different types of economy. Remember, capitalistic, socialistic and mixed economy. So if the countries are having same sort of economy, that means a capitalist country and another capitalist country, trade between these two countries might be easy, but a capitalist country trading with a socialist country, it might face some problems, some difficulties. So first factor is economy of the country. Then we go to next factor, government policies. Government policy is one of the important factor which influences the trade. Some countries are favorable to international trade, some countries might not be. Mind you students, before 1991, India was not, or rather India was having a closed sort of economy. It was very difficult for international traders to trade with the country, to start their market, to start their organization in India. But after 1991, that is after globalization, the government policies changed. Many investors, many foreign companies started coming to India, started investing in India. That means the policy of the government changed thereafter. So what is the policy in the country will definitely influence how much the trade will be carried on internationally. Next factor, markets. Excuse me. Markets. Now you know, Indian market is such that, or rather Indian people will be preferring a car which is not too expensive, a car which is smaller in size. Now here, big, bulky and costly cars, for such cars Indian market is not favorable. Am I right? Big Mercedes or big BMWs, such cars India will not be the market. So what is the market also plays an important factor in trade. Let us take one more example for markets. Now let us take the example, very simple example, umbrellas. Now you cannot go and sell umbrellas into the Gulf countries where it does not rain for years together, right? So such country will not be the market for your product like umbrellas. So market also plays an important role in trade. Laws, judicial system. What laws are prevalent in the country, what is the sort of judicial system of that country also is very important. Now some country might be having favorable laws where they will be easily inviting, easily accepting the foreign investors, foreign companies to trade with the country, but some country which does not want foreign investors, foreign companies to invest in India, to start their production in India, they might be having strict laws. So what is the law of the country, what are the judicial system, even the currency and language plays an important role. Now you know that different countries have different currencies. When you deal in international market, you have to pay in their currency. So that exchange rate, the exchange policy of the currency also plays an important factor. Also languages. Suppose you want to deal with a Japanese company and you don't know the language, it will become very difficult to communicate with them unless you have an interpreter. So can you see, these are the different factors that influences the trade. Let us see those factors once again. Economy of the country, government policies, markets, laws, judicial system, currency, language, etc. Now political relation between the two countries also influence the trade between them. Political relation. Now we know that there is a very good political relation between India and America. So the trade between these two countries will also be very smooth. Whereas trade between India and China, where the political relation is not that good, trade will also be badly affected in such case. But China and Pakistan are having very good political relation, so they will be having very smooth trade between them. Sometimes the obstacle in the way of trade affects the mutual relationship adversely. There are certain obstacles, maybe the language, maybe currency, maybe the policies of that country, which will be affecting the trade, adversely. At such times, differences might arise between those two countries. Trade will not be carried out smoothly between those two countries. Here we require some international organization who will be mutually solving this dispute, this problem between these two trading countries. So the need for international trade organization arises. To avoid this, International Economic and Trade Organization Economic Organization were formed. These organizations work towards the facilitation and growth of international trade. We are going to study these organizations in detail. But can you see the picture of headquarter of ASEAN shown there? ASEAN is an international trade organization of Southeast Asian countries. So can you see ASEAN full form is Association of Southeast Asian Nations. I think there are 10 countries coming together and ASEAN is formed. The headquarter is shown. Headquarter of World Trade Organization, WTO, which is one of the major international trade organization, is WTO. We are going to study about the same in the next lecture. Thank you, students.